Hello, beautiful souls. Thank you for watching. I'm Gabrielle, retired medium in Germany, and I like to share some of my otherworldly experiences and insights. So, this one is about my invitation to the gnomes. Again, back in my mediumship trainment, I was in an exercise with another person, and we were trying to receive messages for the one sitting opposite of us. So we were training in twos, and this other person got a message for me, but she wasn't delivering it in words. You can get messages in many different ways, can be a picture, an image. Some of the some of the colleagues or trainees in the mediumship trainment were musicians, and they had their instruments with them at the workshop, and they delivered their messages, the ones they got from the spirit realm for their colleagues in music. So they were taking out their flute or whatever and were playing some kind of theme that contents the message. And the person opposite to me started to draw because she received an image. And what she drew was like from a children's book. You know, she drew a little gnome all dressed in green with this red head, and he was pointing to the entrance of the gnome realm, which was in a trunk of a tree, just like a dome shaped hole or cave like entrance. And he was pointing to that and laughing and smiling at me. And he the colleague even drew little footsteps going from this little gnome into the hole in the trunk of a tree, and she gave it to me. And I looked at it, and well, it was kind of nice and I liked it, but I didn't know what to do with it, because at that point I didn't know how to step into the images and make it a real life experience, like from the holographic suites from Star Trek films, something like that. So I had this piece of paper, and she even wrote invitation below, and I kept it. And I was so busy with all the things happening during the mediumship trainment and all the messages. If you get too much, you're confused as well, and it's not really helpful. So I kept this for more or less 2 years and already more or less forgot about that invitation to the gnomes. And then one night, again, with my stream of consciousness and images in front of my inner eye at night in my bed, suddenly exactly that picture appeared, what the colleague had drawn for me, this little gnome and the entrance in the trunk of the tree and the footsteps, and he was pointing towards the entrance, like bringing now in real life the invitation. And he was moving. He was the little gnome seemed like a child, being excited and a bit nervous, and he was going up and down, moving left and right from one foot to the other, and was kind of a bit nervous and excited, but a positive way. And when I looked at him, he suddenly, his kind of pointy red head suddenly did this, it was moving. And then I got it. Wow, it's not a head. We only interpret that as a head. It's his energy. It's kind of like fiery red, concentrated, focused, pointy energy, like a triangular flame above his head, that in children books were always depicted as a red pointy head. So that was my first insight, very interesting. And then I was looking at the hole in the trunk of the tree and started thinking, well, how can I ever fit in there? It's just that small and I'm too big. And already starting to think about that, I was kind of crouching as if inside of myself, as if I'm trying to fit into that hole, that entrance. And while I did that, just in thought, because in the other 4D astral realm, whatever you think is manifesting instantly. So you have to be very careful with your thoughts. And while thinking, how can I fit in there, and crouching myself, boom, I already was in there. So that's also an interesting fact, because this big and small thing, that the other dimensions are bigger inside than outside, and that you can change your size from big to small, already is hidden more or less in in the book Alice in Wonderland, when she drinks the drink that makes her big and the drink that makes her small. That's some kind of truth from the other realms, and also people from UFO encounters that entered ships astrally more or less always say inside it's bigger than outside. And that makes sense to me now, because if you use that kind of analogy, the idea that the dimensions are like onion layers above and also below into inner earth, you can find a lot of pockets of higher vibration, 4D and 5D in inner earth as well. So if you're in 3D and the next layer is 4D, of course, if you enter there, that realm is bigger, because it's a different space. And time also works differently in other dimensions. So I was in that trunk in the hole, and the little gnome was beside me, and he led me to some kind of hallway through a very into a very big cave inside the earth, and it was a giant cave, and it was buzzing with lots of different beings. I saw fairies fly around, I saw gnomes running around carrying things, and it was all so busy that I thought, well, what is happening here? Where am I? Where have I landed? What's going on? And this little gnome guy from the entrance who brought the invitation, he brought me in front of some kind of let's say an elder of the gnomes, and he was sitting on some kind of chair in a special part of that cave where the little gnome led me to. And when I was in front of this elder, I looked into his face, and I've never seen something like that before. His eyes were kind of brown and dark, but also very fresh and young, as if they're sparkling with light and energy. And the longer I looked into his brown eyes, I also had the feeling that there is some kind of space opening up that is very vast and very old and ancient. And it was as if I was looking through his eyes into the vast cosmos as well. And there was this childlike energy and this old wisdom, and it was all at the same time. And his face was kind of, the skin was more brown colored, and he had a lot of wrinkles, and he was smiling and laughing in this wrinkly face with these wondrous eyes. And the first thing I did, because I thought I had the invitation, I got it 2 years ago, And only now I'm coming, so I'm late to the party. So I started apologizing. The first thing I said was, I'm sorry that I'm only coming now. I know I have this invitation since 2 years. And I started explaining my point of view. And he just looked at me and smiled from one ear to the other. And when I finished, he said, well, you're here now. And I didn't get it at that moment. Only some years later, I got it that there was no time dilation between getting the invitation and, as I thought, 2 years later, reacting upon it, entering the picture while I saw it in front of my inner eye one night before sleep. So to them, it was now. There was no 2 years in between that. And he said, the second sentence he said was, we always knew you would come. So that was kind of a firm thing. They already knew. That's why they sent the invitation to start the link and make me alert or aware that there is an invitation, that I can have a connection with them and the gnomes and this whole realm and so on. And after a short talk with him, I was kind of very much relieved, and he said, now go and have fun. We are feasting here. You're right to the party. And okay, so I wandered around in that big cave and I watched all the busy beings decorating niches and bringing something to drink and to eat and whatever. And it was all a bit too much for me, so I was looking for some kind of calm niche on the side of this big hall of the elders where they were feasting, whatever. And I found one and I sat down there, and it was empty. There was no one sitting there. In other niches, there were some beings sitting together and laughing and having fun or whatever. And then I noticed that in the same niche where I sat, there was kind of a bush. I thought it was a bush. It seemed to be like a bush because it was just a farm and there were many leaves and it looked like nature. But where you usually assume that there is the face of a figure, I mean, the head above with eyes and mouth and so on, in the upper part of that bush, I saw a mouth and two eyes looking through these leaves, through the bush. And I got it because I encountered that being sometime before, and I call it for myself the Green Man. I don't know why. I think that's what he gave me as a name. And I started researching that, and I only found that in English lore, you have this kind of a Robin Hood figure, someone living in the forest and trying to do something good. And this guy appeared the first time to me, all dressed in green like Robin Hood with a hat like that. And I encountered him several more times, and I recognized his eyes. And he was in his original form. The Green Man is very often depicted as just a face made out of leaves, and you see some eyes and a mouth and nothing else. And they even have little ornament faces that you can put in your garden. And I even ordered one from England and put it in my garden onto a tree. So there was already some kind of connection. So the Green Man was sitting next to me in form of a bush in that niche in the gnomes' hall while the feast was going on. And I just stared at him, trying to um get the whole situation. And then suddenly, he did something that kind of shocked me, because he was looking at me as well, and it was kind of a very deep, we had locked our eyes, and there was kind of energy flowing between us, and he was kind of reading my mind. And suddenly, plop, he was sitting there in the shape and form of my deceased beloved husband, whom I already had contact with on the other side. But the funny thing that happened, when he showed himself in the form of my deceased husband, I, of course, because of the programming, although I already had the experience that he is not dead, we cannot die, our soul is eternal, only this form we change, and we call that death, although it's a new beginning. So there's more or less everything wrong. The wording is wrong, and we're kind of programmed since eons with that death thing. So I started crying, and I could not control it, because I was reminded of the loss, because suddenly I saw him in his bodily form. And then, boom, Green Man changed back again into the bush, and he was totally kind of shocked and looked at me with compassion. And he said, "Why are you crying? I thought I'm doing you a favor, showing you the image of love that I found in your inner world. And now you're crying. Why? You know that your husband isn't dead. You even have contact with him. Why are you crying?" Yeah, and he was right. I told him, "I can't help. I think that's the programming, that we interpret death as the end. And we're programmed to react with grief and sorrow and tears and so on." And he just couldn't understand it. And I'm sharing this with you now just to show you how differently some of the other beings in other realms are ticking, because they know death is illusion. That's a truth for them. And the Green Man, could not understand why I was crying. But I think you can understand, and I understand why I was crying. But also by that, I got the insight that we are totally programmed wrong with this death thing, because they carry on like normal. They know no one is ever gone and lost. They know they reincarnate and they meet again, and they can always meet in the astral. Um, like I met my deceased husband as well in the astral, and he was fully alive and just wonderful, and everything was fine and okay. So that's what I want to leave you with, to maybe change your point of view and give you a different viewpoint. So, thank you for watching, dear souls. Be blessed, love and light onto your path. Bye.